Hello and welcome to the channel. I am talking today about the 7 ways to reclaim your power. And I already made a video about this. Actually, I made a longer version where I break down each of the 7 steps. But for today's video, I just wanted to kind of do a quick recap. And I also wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. One of them is that there's only 4 days left. If you want to still book a 30-minute coaching call with me, it's only $49 right now. That is available until September 30th. I will leave the link in the description box below for that. I also wanted to let you know that there is a 7-day free meditation challenge that I put together for anyone who is struggling with self-care, who isn't sure how to kind of get started with self-care or what practices to do. There's 3 very simple practices that you can do in this meditation challenge. So that will also be in the description below. So let's get into the 7 ways to reclaim your power in today's video. Now, number 1, and I hope you have a pen and paper with you to jot these down, put them on a sticky note, put them somewhere where you can remind yourself, because these 7 steps are actually going to be things that are going to really help you just in your day-to-day life. You know, they're really good reminders of how to maintain and take control of your own personal power so that you're not continuously giving it away to people, places, things, situations. And so also that you're not getting triggered constantly, right? So number 1 is avoid blaming anyone or anything for your bad feelings about life or about any circumstance whatsoever. Nothing outside of you can control your thinking and your actions. And this is something really important to keep in mind, because many of us feel, very much like victims of things happening to us, when in fact, everything in life is happening for us, and it is meant to be teaching us something very valuable, mostly about ourselves, mostly about how we are choosing to show up and how we choose to respond. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, avoid blaming yourself for not being in control. You're doing the best that you can, and you are on the way to reclaiming your power. Just remember that you are not always going to feel like you're in control of your feelings and your emotions, but you actually are. And when you're not, because we all go through that phase sometimes, and we all go through periods where we're just super triggered. So when you're not in control of your emotions and you have a freak out, just remind yourself that you're doing the best you can and that you're still learning this process, right, of reclaiming your power. So you're not going to have it right overnight. You're not going to have it figured out right away, and that's okay. It's all a learning process. So remember to have compassion for yourself if you do have a freak out, instead of feeling really bad about yourself for reacting that way. Number 3, be aware when and where you play the victim. Learn the clues of when you're not taking responsibility for what you are being, doing, feeling, or having. And keep in mind that we are always responsible for all of those things. That everything that you feel in every moment, everything that you think in every moment, you have absolute control over. So just remind yourself over and over that I am in control. I am in control. So that when you are getting triggered, or that you are having a difficult situation that you have to face or that you have to deal with, then you can use that reminder that you are in control, and you can show up differently. You can respond differently instead of react. Now, number 4. Familiarize yourself with your biggest enemy. Your chatterbox, that is always your biggest enemy. It is all of our biggest enemy, right? There's always such a negative dialogue oftentimes in our minds and in our heads. So your ego will always have negative things to say, while your higher self will always produce loving, solution-oriented thoughts. Notice the difference. Because oftentimes when I talk to people, they don't really know when their higher self or their intuition is speaking or their ego is speaking. And that's how you know. Your ego is always going to have something negative to say, where your higher self or your intuition is always going to be encouraging, loving, supportive, and will always try to guide you towards solutions rather than, getting triggered, rather than having a freak out, rather than stressing or worrying about a situation that comes up in your life. So just keep that in mind. Number 5, figure out the payoffs that keep you stuck. Once you write a list of your payoffs, you'll be able to see how they don't serve you. Now, you may be asking what payoffs are, and I go into much more detail about payoffs in my other video, which is linked in the description. But payoffs, in a nutshell, are lies that we tell ourselves and things that we use to convince ourselves to stay in a situation, to stay stuck. So, you know, a payoff, for example, could be somebody that's in a job that they don't like, but then they'll convince themselves that, you know, at least I'm avoiding rejection if I, you know, don't even bother applying for another job and don't even look for another job, then at least I don't have to face rejection if I don't get that job. So that would be like a payoff. These are like I said, like artificial rewards, if you will, that we come up with, or the ego comes up with scenarios to basically make us avoid change. Payoffs are not your friend. Number 6, determine what you want in life and act on it. Stop waiting for someone to give it to you, or you'll be waiting forever. In life, we must be go-getters. We must be people that are willing to take action and do something for ourselves to make a change in our lives. Otherwise, you will stay stuck. You will wait forever, because oftentimes the reality dictates that, you know, people don't necessarily hand us things for nothing. So taking action could also just simply mean visualizing, right? That's a really great way to take action. You don't necessarily have to take physical action. That's not what I'm necessarily referring to right now, but you can certainly visualize, and getting clear on what you want is actually the most important thing. Once you have that figured out, then you can create a beautiful story in your mind. Then you can visualize upon that and really start manifesting it, really start pulling it into your orbit. All right, number 7, and this is the final one. Be aware of all the choices you have when it comes to choosing how you feel and act in any situation. Choose the path that makes you feel at peace with yourself and with others. It's what helps you grow as a person the most. So I always say choosing the path of peace, or choosing the path of least resistance, is actually most valuable, because path of least resistance gives you peace, right? And choosing how you feel, how you think, how you perceive a situation is really going to give you such power. You can choose, you know, to get angry about a situation. You can choose to be frustrated. You can choose to get really upset with a person, or you can choose to see that they're also doing the best that they can. And most people truly show up based on the level of consciousness that they're at. They cannot show up in a higher version of themselves if they are not there, if they are not embodying that higher version of themselves. So keeping that in mind, and really remembering that everyone is constantly showing up in the best way that they can, and at the level of consciousness that they are at, will really help you to regain your personal power when it comes to your emotions and thoughts about that person or that situation, and will help you to recognize that, you know, this is what it is. I can't change this, so I'm just going to choose to be peaceful about it. I'm going to choose to really move into an energy of power within myself rather than allowing myself to get triggered. So these are the 7 steps in a nutshell that I wanted to quickly share, and just remind you that, you know, you always have choice, that personal power is literally one choice away, and that you don't have to be a victim of any circumstance, of any situation, or any person.